When the Halo Infinite flight rolled around, fans were ecstatic. It was just a few weeks ago, but it was a different time. Halo Infinite has been a roller coaster. There was a massive feedback loop after the multiplayer reveal and the flight. YouTubers would hype up the game, giving the impression that the game was flawless, that it had fixed every issue from the previous games, that everybody loved the game. This in turn caused fans to raise their expectations to unreasonable degrees, thus making them seek out more content confirming their biases, telling them that the game was flawless. This endless cycle caused fan excitement to rise to unreasonable levels. And so, when any major news comes along to disrupt this, it comes crashing down. People devolve into unacceptable behavior, getting absolutely livid, sending death threats. Things like that are despicable, but unfortunately, inevitable. Reddit, I think, is the prime example of this reactionary mob mentality. You can easily understand how witch hunts happened back in the day. It makes you doubt democracy itself. And people wonder why I'm so critical, why I always try to dampen expectations. Did I not say that 343 were withholding important information? They still haven't given us a launch date. I said that they could have come out and allayed our fears regarding the game. There was still so much 343 hadn't told us. And yet, people were getting ahead of themselves. They were celebrating the game. Did people just assume that 343 wouldn't stagger the releases of important features? That the multiplayer being free to play and games as a service model wouldn't present issues? Forge is an important feature, and its delay will only hurt the game as it did in Halo 5. It's the same with the absence of split screen at launch. Halo needs to absolutely bang at launch to announce its arrival, not with a subtle toot, but an immense rip, so pungent nobody can avoid it. Basically, launch is the best time to make a big impression to attract prospective players. They need to get it right when trying to win people over with the features. The feature incomplete launch was an issue in Halo 5. It isn't as bad in Infinite. In Halo 5, there was no split screen at all. Infinite will still have it, just delayed. Of course, split screen is a challenge. You have to render the entire game twice, but it's a central feature in Halo. It's, well, iconic. It's a shared experience so many people have. Playing the Halo games in split screen on the couch with their friends and family. It's an experience that is fundamentally, culturally connected with Halo. Split screen and Halo are synonymous in the public imagination. Forge doesn't quite carry the emotional equity, as Amadi would put it, that split screen does, but it's still a central feature. User-generated content is important, and if people aren't experimenting with it as soon as possible, they're going to, in a sense, fall behind. Most of the best maps come out after the cool tips and tricks have already been figured out for Forge. This usually takes a while, a few months of community experimentation. They need to allow for this experimentation phase to begin as soon as possible, while the player base is still at its largest. Some people say that Forge doesn't matter to them, to which I say, have you played on a Forge map ever? Have you enjoyed custom games? We need Forge mode for those things, even if you're not making the maps yourself. To illustrate the importance of being prompt with user-generated content tools, I'm going to point to a brand new game releasing this year. That's right, Skyrim Anniversary. Of course, Skyrim is known as the de facto game for user-generated content and mods. Some of the mods are even about the actual game, rather than interactive porn. Skyrim was released in November 2011. The nude mod came about in the same week, but most of the mods were just minor tweaks, similar to Halo 3 mods in the MCC now. The proper mod tools came about 3 months after launch in February of the next year. This is when the modding scene exploded to reach what we know now. I'll contrast this with another game, Kingdom Come Deliverance. By all accounts a sleeper hit, it did quite well, selling several million copies. Certainly nowhere near Skyrim levels, but it's not exactly obscure either. It was quite popular ultimately. It has modding tools as well, to create quests and content to your heart's desire. The game released in February 2018, the modding tools released over a year and a half later in October 2019. Kingdom Come Deliverance had a chance when it first came out. It could have attracted some attention with its modding scene. People did make mods in the first week. Like Skyrim's early mods, it was basically just hacks, messing around with the game's binaries. It's mostly minor adjustments with hacky visual changes, and those are still basically the only mods available for this game. It took way too long to release its modding tools, and by the time they were released, there was no interest. Basically, you need to strike while the iron is hot, especially if you're the underdog on the back foot. Halo Infinite is behind Call of Duty and Battlefield at this point. There is of course some room for staggered releases. Skyrim's tools released 3 months after the game. There's no ideal time to release, but generally, the further from the game's launch the mapping tools release, the less interest it is likely to accrue. The way it's looking now, Forge will be coming in Season 3, 6 months after the game launches. I think that's too long. It was an issue with Halo 5 and its Forge only released 2 to 3 months after the game. 6 months is going to be a massive wait, and having our custom game options hampered until then could significantly harm the game. They're really relying on the multiplayer to absolutely kill it. The question now remains, why not delay the game to give it the best chance possible? If it's not finished, it's not finished. Surely they should just set the game's launch back, because it's not just about making a good game, not about making a game for Halo fans. It's not even about attracting new fans. Primarily, it's about the prestige that Halo brings. There's a reason the term iconic is so associated with Halo. Master Chief is front and center in all of Microsoft's game advertising. I want to link this really interesting video that I think you should watch that explains this further. It kind of pointed out this phenomenon I'm going to talk about. But Microsoft owns older series than Halo, series with a longer legacy. They own far more successful games than Halo. I mean, they own Minecraft, right? But Minecraft isn't an Xbox game. It's not a Microsoft brand. It's certainly recognizable, but no game carries the recognizability of Halo, especially not one that's publicly associated with Microsoft so strongly. The sign value. Yes, I'm breaking out some Baudrillard here. Basically, much of the value of a product is in the social value it holds, the prestige it has, rather than the value of the actual good or product itself. Halo holds immense value for Microsoft. It is recognizable and, more importantly, recognizably associated with Microsoft and Xbox. Every new generation of consoles needs its killer app. It needs that game that demarcates that specific console generation. Xbox Series X is behind in that sense. It had no launch titles, it's behind PlayStation. That's bad for marketing. An Xbox generation has not been christened until it has its own Halo game. This is the value Halo holds for Microsoft. It isn't going to sell the most on Xbox. It isn't going to make Microsoft the most money. They have Sea of Thieves, Minecraft, Game Pass, but it holds the most sign value. Because it was built from the ground up by talented people who knew the importance of emotional equity, there are so many recognizable aspects of Halo, it's ridiculous. Like the aforementioned split screen, couch co-op. Microsoft literally named their phone assistant after Cortana. You can recognize the color scheme, like that's the Cortana color scheme. She owns the color blue. The Chief's helmet, that alone drew such an immense reaction in the Halo Infinite reveal. That combination of green and yellow is just so ingrained. There are of course the symbols that Halo fans will instantly recognize, the Arbiter, the Halo itself, 343, the icon, but many aspects of Halo simply transcend into the public consciousness. Master Chief is right up next to Mario and Zelda. The energy sword, the assault rifle, the needler. Not just the visuals though. The Halo theme will go down in history among the greats. They also own E. Yes, that's right. You can invoke Halo by simply playing multiple E notes. The The quality of an Xbox generation is measured by the quality of its Halo. So that's why Microsoft want the game out as soon as possible. They want to christen this console generation and establish it with a de facto launch title. It's integral to their brand, and they will push to get this out even if it means a lackluster launch. But a bad Halo game is harmful to the Xbox brand. You'd think they want it to be as good as possible, but I think they just want it out the door. It feels hard to believe, but Halo Infinite has to come out within the next 4 months. They confirmed that they aren't delaying the game, meaning it's set for 2021. Many people think it will be the 15th of November date, the Halo Combat Evolved 20th anniversary. It feels like an incredibly lethargic marketing campaign for a game looking to come out in 3 months. That's given me some fears. We had no idea that they were going to delay Forge. In my previous videos, I said that 343 still has heaps of explaining to do. They still do. How do we know there aren't any more nasty surprises like this Forge delay? They mentioned the roadmap. How about they show us the roadmap? It seems like they're trying the boiling the frog strategy, slowly getting people acclimated to accept worse and worse news, to lower their standards. First the armor coatings, games as a service business, and now a staggered launch. Imagine they dropped all of that on us at once. But I believe now is the time to be honest. They need to come out and dispel our fears. So I suggest a simple phrase for all you, the viewers, to use. Show the roadmap. 3 words. You can make it a hashtag if you like. Spread it around. I'm not sure if this will work or not, but it's worth a shot. Show the roadmap. I called Halo Infinite a watered down Halo 5 in the past, and it seems 343 is repeating a lot of the mistakes. We need to find out now if there's any other problems with Halo Infinite before it's too late. Forge for Halo Infinite already exists. It's already in builds of the game. We've confirmed this with the leaked screenshots. The same happened for Master Chief Collection, actually. Modders were playing Forge months before it was officially available. It's mostly because of bug fixing and optimization that they delay it for so long. Another thing to worry about is, and I haven't seen anybody else talking about this, the Forge is outsourced. Just like in Halo 4. That's a red flag. The Forge needs to be better than Halo 5's. And Halo 5's was good. It should also come out closer to the launch of the game. Personally, I think a delay would be the best course of action. Repeating the same mistakes from Halo 5 only harms the Halo brand more. Ultimately, we should be concerned that releasing a half-baked game will drive people away. Try to avoid any hype and focus on the issues with the game and getting answers from 343. Another thing that's concerning is that only 12% of you watching are subscribed. When you hit the bell, you join the nerd army. I'm aiming for 10,000 subscribers, so if you help me out, you can join the under 10,000 club in the nerd army. Thank you all so very much for watching, and goodbye. Master Chief is right up next to Mario and Zelda.